Hi, y'all. I wanted to introduce my interview with Nina, who asked to remain anonymous. And so there is no video accompanying her, but you will hear the audio of her just incredible healing story. And I met Nina on TikTok actually when she stumbled upon me. She started watching my videos. She started just taking in all my content while I was writing my book, and she was one of the first people to buy my book when it came out. And she just started implementing all the protocols just on her own. She just had this intuitive sense that it was the right path for her, like 30 years of chronic illness symptoms, despite being very sensitive to histamines and having mast cell activation. She just did all the gut healing practices and just introduced them very slowly and intentionally, working with her body. And she has made this phenomenal recovery in just a few months, right? My book just came out in January, so she just started doing it this year, and she is experiencing relief from symptoms that she has never experienced before, even though she is not new to the alternative health world. There are just a few key factors that were really missing in her approach. Another thing I really love about Nina is just her attitude. You know, she comes from a low income family. She doesn't have a big budget, but she has not let that stop her. And she realized, like, I can afford a book. Like, this is my birthday present to myself. I can buy a book and I can start implementing the protocols. And she just did what she could afford to do, and it still made a huge difference. So for people who are feeling like, oh, I don't make enough money to heal, not true. Yes, of course, I know that money can be helpful when people are trying to take time off work, or buy a fancy supplement or something like that, but you don't have to. You really can heal on a budget. I did make a YouTube video called Can I Heal on a Budget that I encourage you to watch if you haven't, because it talks about this. But Nina's story really exemplifies how, yeah, it actually is totally possible. You can just follow the protocols in the book, pace yourself, go slow, be compassionate with yourself, and the magic will happen. It truly will. So I really can't wait for you to hear this. I also did want to share that I am going to start filling up my cohort for my August start of my immune resilience program. The first cohort is about to start, and I'm so excited for the people who have signed up and are going to start this incredible transformative journey. But I have gotten a lot of interest for this program. This is my intensive coaching program that focuses on people who have major histamine issues, chronic allergies, mast cell activation, high chemical sensitivities, and of course, whatever comorbid things those come with, right? We know chronic illnesses don't come in isolation, but it is focused on people who have highly sensitive immune systems, because all the protocols we're going to implement do focus on people who may need to go very slow or be very gentle or keep histamines in mind in terms of their approach. So if you are interested in joining this intensive coaching program, please make sure you email me from my website, and I will do a discovery call with you, and we will see if it would be a good fit. If you are ready to start healing your histamine issues today, you can always sign up for my pre-recorded course, Rebuild Your Histamine Response. It is over a year's worth of content for you to implement. You have access to the community forum where you can ask me questions. I check it several times a week and answer any questions people have. You can comment on the protocols, asking clarifying questions. A lot of people have been doing that. It's been really helpful. As well as bonus, you get free live webinars with me every month. Everyone who's on that course gets that. So you do get direct access to me through being on that course. And that's the best way to really get started. Of course, my book is also an option, just like Nina did. But if you're looking for something a little more specialized and targeted that has more direct access to me, my Rebuild Your Histamine Response course is the next step to take. And you can get this on the histamine and mast cell page on my website. Okay, without further ado, enjoy Nina. Okay, everyone. So I am here today with Nina. She has requested to stay anonymous and off camera, but she was kind enough to agree to an audio interview. So you'll see me, but you won't see her, but you're going to hear her amazing story. And I actually have never worked directly with Nina. She found my book and she started the protocols, and she had an amazing turnaround in her health, and she reached out to me to tell me about her progress and what has been happening for her. And I just thought, oh my gosh, People need to hear this story because it's so incredible and so inspiring. So thank you so much, Nina, for agreeing to share this with everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
Great, great. So yeah, I would love if people just got a little bit of background information on you, Nina, just in terms of just kind of the overall trajectory of your health story. I always like, people to share what things were like for them when they were at their worst, just so people can get a sense of, what life was like for you, in illness.
Okay. I guess a little bit of background with my health. Um, I dealt with seasonal allergies like early on in my 20s and uh, gut related, like just seemed to have problems digesting a lot of foods, a lot of bloating, just feeling like a lot of nausea, and then went on for years and years. And then after the birth of my first child at age 32, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. And
Mhm.
so that going on a gluten-free diet, because that was the only advice I was given, was just, oh, don't eat gluten.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure that out. And initially that really helps. Any celiac can relate to that. You feel a lot better right away.
Mhm.
But I quickly learned that I still couldn't digest like a lot of foods,
Mhm.
and my digestion just seemed to still not be working very well, even though I was strictly gluten free. And I learned how to make, make gluten free bread and everything. Learned how to do everything brand new, and making probiotic foods at home and all that. But nothing seemed to be really helping me.
Mhm.
And my seasonal allergies would get worse every year. I would where it was just a couple of months in the spring, then it was like now it's early spring into late summer, and then um, my symptoms just took a real turn during COVID. So it was 2020. We moved into a 100-year-old house in Vancouver, British Columbia. So
Mhm.
coastal
Yeah.
rainforest, 100-year-old house, and beautiful house. And we were able to, because it was during COVID and there wasn't a lot of people, that were actually working. We still had employment, so we were able to get a pretty good deal on this house. Well, it turned out to be not such a great deal for me. We moved in, and it was like I was hit over the head with a frying pan, like from day one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, my allergies just were just insane.
Yeah.
And I really knew nothing at the time. And it really actually took me a long time to figure it out,
Yeah.
because it was a beautiful house and it was a beautiful neighborhood, and there was like the old growth cedar trees, and I was so happy with the backyard and the squirrels running, and so there's a lot of good things. And my kids are teenagers, and we had been stuck in a small apartment, so it was so nice for them to have this nice house, a
Yeah.
nice backyard, a nice neighborhood again. So um, I was willing to just try to figure it out. So meanwhile, my digestion just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
Like now I'm starting to take more foods out of my
Mhm.
diet. I'm tolerating less and less and less. And it's just, and now I'm taking antihistamines. I'm like, oh, okay, because we moved in the summer. So I kind of thought, okay, this is a bad allergy season, but um, this just could be just the neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
the more flowers, the more trees. But then September came and they weren't going away. And then now we're into October and December. I'm like, okay, I am taking antihistamines 24 hours a day.
What were some of your allergy symptoms that you were having? Is it mostly like sinus congestion? Like what was a day in the life like for you at that point?
Um, oh yeah, like so bad. If I didn't take an antihistamine, I was coughing up blood. That's how
Wow.
bad.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just congestion at all. Like I would feel like ripping my eyes out. I would sneeze constantly, just be driving my family nuts. as compassionate as they were trying to be, like it's really hard to see someone just really constantly sneezing and blowing their nose. And yeah, no, and that was with the antihistamines. But if I didn't take them, I was coughing up blood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, at this point, I really didn't know because you couldn't smell the mold. You couldn't really, but like it had like single pane windows, like the old windows. And like I was looking, you could actually like see it kind of built up in like the little window. Anyone's seen those really old houses, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like old rugs.
Yeah.
There's like just a lot of, probably dust mites. That's another thing with the high humidity.
Mhm.
Probably everything going on.
Yes.
So, anyway, so we had a 2-year lease. So this went on for 2 years. So this is the first time in my life where I'd had to take antihistamines every day for 2 years, and again, just started taking foods out of my diet, foods out because I just wasn't tolerant everything. Everything was just like just going right through me. Like I just couldn't, like now it was like really highly I do a lot of reading and trying to figure things out myself. So it came down to FODMAPs. Like I couldn't tolerate any garlic or onions or like any of the really high FODMAP foods.
Yeah.
And so I started just basically living off of like a few foods that I could tolerate, which at the time were just like meat, eggs, organic peanut butter.
Mhm.
It seemed to be okay. Um, I was eating like a bit of leafy greens, and I was drinking like a lot of tea. That
Mhm.
kind of seemed to be my crutch to kind of, because my energy was so low. So I would like basically drink tea all day long, which um, probably was like not good. So the biggest symptoms happened when our 2-year lease was over, and we actually went back to our hometown in the Okanagan Valley
Okay.
in British Columbia. So it's a drier climate. So I kind of thought that all of a sudden things were going to get better for me. But I don't know if at that point, because I was away from the mold now, my body was doing a major detox on its own, but the symptoms just went berserk.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe you understand this more. I don't know what happened, but I started like having at this point anaphylactic reactions to
Yeah.
foods I'd never had reactions to before.
Wow.
Like rapid heartbeat. I couldn't breathe. Again, the coughing up the blood,
Yeah.
and still taking the antihistamines day and night. And so yeah, just went down to just eating just like little bits of meat and eggs I was still able to tolerate, and now no vegetables.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
fast forward about 6 months, I went through this, and that's when I found you.
Oh, wow, Nina, you have been through so much, and I think that a lot of people are going to relate to the slow buildup over time that just suddenly kind of crashes down, right? Because you've had allergies, you've had digestive symptoms for a long time. It got worse after pregnancy, which is so common for people, right? It really changes the immune system, it changes your nutrient levels, all of that, right? And I think it's so interesting how you talk about like, okay, I'm diagnosed with celiac and I take gluten out. And yes, it does help some acute symptoms. And yet things do just keep getting worse overall. And I think that it's so important to have this perspective because we think of celiac as just gluten intolerance when really it's severe damage in the digestive tract, right? Which is not just about gluten. And I think it's been so damaging that we've had this shift in rhetoric around, oh, celiac just means you can't eat gluten. Because what happens is exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people will take gluten out. And again, yes, it does help, but there's deeper damage going on that is about so much more than just gluten. And if that stays unchecked, now you're susceptible to all this mold toxicity, all these increasing digestive symptoms, all these increasing food allergies, and eventually into like the full blown mast cell activation syndrome, kind of symptoms. And so I think it's so important for people to hear that there are deeper things going on, with these kinds of diagnoses and with these kind of symptoms. And you had to learn that the hard way. And oh my goodness, I know having to be on such a restricted diet and yet still having symptoms is so scary. I've been there, and I think a lot of people in here can relate to that. So thank you for sharing all of that. I guess next I'm curious about like what what was the game changer for you? Like you found my book, you started reading my book, and I just want to hear about, how you started shifting things and what really ended up making a difference for you.
Okay. So I was at a point where I honestly felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
So I was actually new to social media, and I think that like it was fate. I just found you right away, and I started listening to your videos, watching your videos and listening to you, and I knew right away that I knew you knew. I knew you got it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just felt like I could really put my trust in you. And your book hadn't been released yet, so I was waiting for your book to be released, and I knew I was gonna. Again, um, we're a low income family. It's Canada. It's like really difficult right now, and here I am feeling like I'm like dying, but I can afford a book. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I think I even said to you at one point, this is my birthday present to myself.
Yeah.
So I bought your book, and I just jumped right in. I'm still having the massive histamine intolerance, and the so I went right into the gut brain rebuilding diet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started making the bone, the meat stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And because with histamine intolerance, like you can't have anything that is really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. So limited. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so difficult because it's so limited what you can eat, and you can't have anything that has been in the fridge. You can't have anything that's sitting. Like anyone that hasn't experienced this have no idea how hard it is. So I would literally make the meat stock, and I would had all these mason jars lined up, and I would fill the mason jars, the 3/4 to give it room, and I would put them all in the freezer so that there's no sitting around. And I lived off this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a good month.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started adding a little bit in after a month, because at this point, like my I didn't seem to be tolerating anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started, and I jumped right in with everything that you recommended, and I took out my peanut butter addiction, my tea addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I started reading your book, the more I started understanding that I was eating really high oxalate.
Yeah.
And this is something I had never known anything about,
Yeah.
like nothing. In all
Yeah.
my reading, all my trying to figure it out. And I thought I was pretty well educated in the health side of things.
Yeah.
And it turned out I was really, really, really nutrient deficient.
Yeah.
So,
Even though you were
making
eating all that meat and all that eggs with all the oxalates in your diet, you just weren't absorbing a lot of those minerals, right?
no,
Yeah.
no.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, like, over the years, I could even see like my teeth, the minerals coming out of my teeth.
Yeah.
So, celiacs out there that
Yep.
want to jump on the gluten free, all the gluten-free junk foods, and the influencers that say eat this and eat that. There's so much more to it. It's so scary.
Yeah.
You have to heal your gut. You have to make sure you're not mineral deficient, because I obviously was for years and years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the meat stocks, I started slowly being able to take, I was right away, I made your recipes for the vegetable probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
I was making the marinade or the fermented carrots and ginger and sauerkraut. I ordered my kefir grains, like all of it. I just jumped right in and started doing all of it. And then, of course, with the histamine intolerance in the beginning, you can't tolerate any
Yes.
probiotics. So I was literally just like taking like half a teaspoon of the vegetable brine and
Yes.
just working my way up. But
Yes. And
I'm,
this is exactly it. I mean, so many people, I think a lot of times people with these conditions have this very all or nothing mindset. I mean, I certainly did, right? And so I love that, you just had full faith that like this was the answer for you, and you knew if you kept doing it, things would shift. And it's just like, okay, I'm just going to do as much as I can, and just keep easing up, and it made a huge impact for you just taking it one step at a time like that.
yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I think a person has to be at that point to really, like, I hope, um, there's not too many people out there that are like me that are like, it's all or nothing at this point, but sometimes it takes that
Yeah.
to really believe and really just, because again, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And I even tried, like I said, I was addicted to peanut butter because
Yep.
it was easy. It was quick protein fix. I have my own business. I was trying to, busy. I'm like, oh, I'll just have a tablespoon of peanut butter. That'll be my lunch and a
Yeah.
cup of tea, right? Well, that was not doing anything for me. And so I think it was 2 months into your protocol, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have like a tablespoon of peanut butter. I still kind of crave it.
Hmm.
And organic, right?
Hmm.
Organic peanut butter. But oh my gosh, I was back to the, because I used to be up all night drinking water, just
Mm.
constantly dehydrated, probably the antihistamines, but also, I don't know, my body trying to heal itself. So I had the 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and that night I was chugging water all night. So I'm like,
Wow.
okay, that doesn't work. Same thing with the tea, the black tea. I tried a couple months in, because I'm 3 months now with your protocol. I tried a couple months in to have a cup of black tea. Oh my gosh, up all night chugging water. So no. So yeah, just really sticking with it. The probiotics, I'm still making my meat stocks and freezing my jars in the freezer.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing, number one, is the grass-fed liver.
Ah.
Okay, now everyone out there, Whole
Yeah.
Foods has liver in the freezer and it's cheap, guys. It's cheap. And
So
it
much
is my
cheaper than
new
any
multi.
like fancy B
No,
complex you're gonna buy, right? Yes.
it's insane. Like,
Yes.
it is now my daily multivitamin. And, I'm going within the guidelines that you're supposed to not overdo it,
Yes.
just like a small amount, but
Mhm.
it's life changing. So yeah, I owe it all to you.
And now you're absorbing all of it because you're sealing that gut lining with all that meat stock you're doing. You're replenishing your microbiome. So you're assimilating this better. You've cut out the oxalates. So you're actually absorbing all of those minerals in the meat stock and the liver and all of that. And you're seeing a huge difference. Can you tell people a little bit about, I mean, and bear in mind, folks, this is 3 months, right? This is early on, in the healing process. But can you share a little bit about the differences that you've noticed?
Um, okay, so the biggest thing, because when I started this, on top of everything else, I wasn't sleeping. I
Mhm.
was, um, along with all of this, I'm going through perimenopause.
Mhm.
So I was up like every couple hours in the night to go to the washroom, just constantly having that pressure on my bladder.
Mhm.
I don't know what that was all about, but right away it was gone when I started Jen's protocol, like gone. So this is the first time in years, literally years, that I've been sleeping through the night.
Wow.
So I believe just the restful sleep is, well, I know like how healing that's been.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not being up all night chugging water
Mm-hmm.
because that just drives you nuts.
Yeah.
And mindset, mindset, like just feeling like I'm gonna live.
Yeah.
That's
Not
huge.
having that constant dread anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just having the additional energy during the day and the positive attitude, and again, it's just been so huge for my family not to have to be around someone who is feeling like crap all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've had a huge improvement in your allergic symptoms, if I'm recalling correct, Ellie, right?
Yeah, no, like I don't know if it's like a magic spell that you cast, or I honestly don't understand that. I don't know, maybe you can explain that more, but um I have my theory of what that is, but as soon as I started following your protocol, gone, done. I am not taking antihistamines. And this is, guys, this is the first time in 30 years. It used to just be the seasonal allergies, and I explained, and then it got like
Yeah.
extended, and then it was year round. But I was taking antihistamines for 30 years.
Yeah.
And now I'm 3 months and just finished, because we're back in Vancouver, and Vancouver is really crazy for allergies, like because there's so many trees and flowers, and it's super intense. And I am not taking antihistamines.
Oh,
So yeah, that is just huge, 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 huge.
yeah. And this is exactly like, zooming out and looking at the big picture again with celiac, like it does not just mean you're gluten intolerant, it means your gut lining is severely damaged. And that's why it comes with things like allergies and digestive issues and all this kind of stuff. And when you dove into that protocol, you just started healing and sealing your gut lining. And this changes everything. Like, I think that probably most people today have some amount of leaky gut going on just with everything we're bombarded with these days, just in our everything that we're buying at the grocery stores and everything that we're exposed to in terms of chemicals and toxicants and all these kinds of things. And so, when you zoom out, and it's not just about being gluten free anymore, which, like you said, like so many of these gluten free alternatives are actually very high oxalate, very irritating to the gut, and can actually keep making the situation worse, even if you're not eating gluten. And so I think you're such a great example of like, you were really trying to eat whole foods and you were already eating low carb, for a while to help reduce your symptoms, but sometimes it is like the devil is in the details. And this is why when people come to me and they say, well, I've tried everything, nothing works, I'm always like, there's no way you've tried everything, because there's always more nuance we can dial in on. And sometimes you just have to find that right mix of things for what your body needs in particular. And you've really stumbled on that, right? It was really like helping with your dehydration, your mineral deficiencies by taking out those oxalates. It was really, getting a lot of that glycine and glutamate and all those really healing amino acids from the meat stock. It was slowly but methodically getting in those probiotics to replenish your gut microbiome. I mean, and you just kind of hit this perfect, Venn diagram of what your body needed and was missing, even though, it felt like you were, trying so many things before. It just wasn't quite that right combination for what your body was really asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is really key what you just said there, like finding out what is right for your body.
Yes.
That's like 100%.
Yes. Oh, Nina, I am so, so thrilled to hear about your progress. And I think that, I love hearing just how something just hit you like instinctually or intuitively around like, okay, this has got to be it, and you just listened to that and you just went all in. And I think a lot of people with these kinds of conditions and with these kind of symptoms, like it's often accompanied by a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, understandably, right? But it seems like you really just surrendered and you just went all in and you just kind of rode the wave of letting this process play out and just seeing what happened. And I'm just so pleased to hear about your progress. And I guess I just want to give you a chance if there's anything else in terms of just like lifestyle or mindset or anything else that you feel like has been really important for you that you want to share with others. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to say?
Um, okay, so every morning I get up with my husband, he works really early. We get up like before sunrise and I sit on the couch and my your book is now my Bible. It sits beside me on the couch and I just like will open up a random page because it's big. It's really big.
Yes.
And I'll pick up a random page and I will bring in new information. So this is how I start my day now. And again, the I'm able to sit there and I'm able to watch the sunrise. And I am following your tips, the sun rising and the sun setting. I now go outside on the balcony and I watch the sunset.
Yeah.
And I really believe there's a lot of things that I've incorporated that I didn't used to do before that have really helped.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, so much of this is just getting back in tune with nature and those natural cycles, right? And sometimes I think we can overlook these simple routines, right? As like probably not being that important or like, being kind of insignificant, but things like that can make a big difference. Like getting your body back in that natural rhythm like actually has a huge impact. So I don't think that's a coincidence at all that you've been seeing so much benefit so quickly and you're applying all those just little aspects of routine into your day-to-day life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you again so much for your time and your willingness to be vulnerable and to share. And I hope other people are really inspired by your journey. And, like Nina said, she has a low income family. She doesn't have a huge budget, and yet, she can still follow these routines and these nutritional protocols and experience incredible healing. So you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a fancy testing and supplements, and, all these specialists, I mean, I know so many people are spending so much money or feel really stuck because they don't have those thousands of dollars to spend on all these things. But sometimes it's these really simple interventions that you can actually do on a budget that make the biggest difference. And so I hope that that's really inspiring for people to hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that really was one of the big things that appealed to me from the beginning is that you weren't trying to push supplements.
Yeah.
Like so many people, it's like, like, okay, oh, and you happen to have that for sale, do you? It's just like,
Right. Totally.
yeah, you, and you're inspiring. Like, I love watching, I've commented you before. I love watching your videos. You think you just inspire people to believe in themselves and to
Yeah.
learn how to heal themselves. And
Yes.
um, my body is actually telling me like foods, like I'm actually craving foods again. So I think that's huge.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you
Yeah.
start having cravings that are like not cookies, right?
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
you know that really big shifts are happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, like shrimp. I'm like, I'm craving shrimp. And I have an Asian market near me and I've found like, and then there's also a Mediterranean market. So I found like some more inexpensive places other than the commercial grocery stores that are just insane right now
Yeah.
in Canada. So yeah,
Yeah. Just listening to your body, following that intuition. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much again for your time today, Nina.
thanks, Jen.